Time, as ever, remains life's most unforgiving adversary. The vulnerable flee in haste, desperate to preserve their fleeting breath. The formidable, however, choose silence, slipping unseen into the darkened mire. For that is how true terror is masterfully sown. A herd of impala graze with heads lowered. Their ears swivel ceaselessly, scanning every direction, yet their eyes see nothing but grass. A few paces away, a giraffe stands motionless. Its head rises above the treetops, its gaze sweeping nearly 1.25 miles of open ground, a living watchtower on the savannah. A 1,000 feet to the east, a shape lies flattened in the grass. Its body presses against the earth, eyes locked on the impala herd. Pale gold fur, dappled with black spots, blends into the dry grass with near-perfect precision. Farther still, concealed in thick scrub, a male lion lies frozen. His dark mane dissolves into shadow, his amber eyes half closed against the rising heat. He arrived before dawn, not a single muscle twitching since the deliberate stillness of the dominant. Every breath shallow, every heartbeat measured, the patience of an apex predator distilled into perfect inaction. Four species, one savanna. Before the sun reaches its peak, at least one of them will pay the price of sharing this unforgiving ground. The impala feed close beside the giraffe, and this is no coincidence. Standing 16 to 20 feet tall, the giraffe's eyes detect what the low-slung impala cannot. This is a cross-species survival pact, refined across millennia of coexistence. The impala borrow the eyes of the gentle giant to compensate for their own modest height, trading proximity for protection. And those very eyes now detect what the entire impala herd has missed, a low shape pressed against the golden grass, edging closer with each passing second. The giraffe spots the cheetah in the grass. It stands rigid, head aimed directly at the stalker, gaze fixed and unblinking. The impala read the signal. Heads snap upward in unison, ears erect, every muscle drawn taut as a bowstring. The cheetah's body is a masterpiece, that 40 million years of evolution sculpted for a single purpose, speed. Every sinew, every bone, every hollow chamber of its oversized lungs exists to serve velocity. "70 miles per hour. From standstill to 100 kilometers in 3 seconds flat. Faster than any supercar ever built. A biological engine without equal." But that speed lasts no more than 20 seconds. After that, the cheetah's body overheats to its physiological limit, core temperature spiking past 40 degrees. Stop or die. The cheetah's success rate hovers between 40 and 50%, the highest among the great cats. But Catching prey is one matter. Keeping it is another entirely. The cheetah knows it has been exposed. The element of surprise, its most critical weapon, is gone. Across the open grassland, no option remains but to strike immediately or abandon the hunt entirely. Its eyes lock onto a young impala that has drifted from the herd, isolated, hesitant, still learning the rhythms of danger. A fatal mistake. From 0 to maximum velocity in 3 seconds. Dust and grass erupt beneath the cheetah's paws as its body becomes a blur of gold. Its running line cuts a flawless straight path. The young impala zigzags in desperation, the only tactic against raw speed, because the cheetah's spine-flexing stride changes direction far less nimbly than its agile quarry. 12 seconds. Specialized claws, semi-retractable, functioning like the spikes on a sprinter's shoe, grip the earth and strike the prey down with surgical precision. The hunt is over. The cheetah begins to feed in frantic haste, breath still ragged, body trembling with exhaustion. But it is not the only one hungry this morning. The lionesses rise from the underbrush. Hundreds of pounds of muscle converge, their lithe, fluid forms crowned by battle-scarred faces. They have rested motionless all morning, not from indolence, but because steadfast patience remains the greatest weapon of the savannah's elite hunters. Each lioness weighs between 150 and 250 pounds combined. They constitute Africa's supreme apex predator. No creature dares challenge a hunting pride directly. Yet today, they ignore the cheetahs and impala herds. The pride's gaze locks onto a substantially more formidable quarry. A giraffe stretches downward to browse upon a low acacia. Neck lowered, forelegs splayed, it assumes a highly vulnerable posture. The pride advances. 164 feet, 98 feet, 49 feet. Each footfall lands in absolute silence. They fan out and charge. Yet, the giraffe holds its ground. It pivots with startling agility for a creature thrice the height of its assailants. A hind leg strikes with an estimated 2,000 pounds of force. Enough to shatter bone, enough to kill. The blow connects with the lead lioness's shoulder. The great cat falters, staggering backward 2 paces. The giraffe stands resolute, confronting them. 4 pillar-like legs planted firmly, head held high, entirely devoid of panic. It towers above the felines and possesses full awareness of this advantage. The pride retreats, not in defeat, but because the potential cost is simply too steep. A crippled limb renders a huntress useless, transforming her into a liability. An inability to hunt guarantees starvation. Collective might is not universally sufficient. Across these plains, survival favors those who judiciously choose their battles. Nearby, a cheetah finishes its meal, resting beneath an acacia canopy as temporary peace falls. The impala herd resumes, grazing 1 lost, 39 remain. The giraffe ambles away, its elevated vantage revealing everything: the satiated predator, the ravenous pride, and the oblivious prey grazing as though nothing had occurred. Retreating to the shadows, the lionesses lie in wait for another fleeting opportunity. Patience. Eternal patience. These formidable females govern the African savanna through unyielding collective strength and absolute fortitude. But across the Atlantic, in the sprawling swamplands of South America, a different great cat has evolved along an entirely separate path. It needs no pride, as the lion does, no speed, as the cheetah requires. It possesses something no other cat on earth can claim: the most powerful bite force in the feline family. A single bite clean through a caiman's skull. The Jaguar, South America's apex cat, built for the swamp and answerable to nothing. Welcome to wild Brazil, a land where the untamed still shapes every river, every forest, every shadow. The 5th largest nation on Earth, 8.5 million square kilometers stretching from equatorial rainforest down to tropical savanna, from flooded marshland across to white desert. More than 125,000 animal species call this land home. 50,000 plant species anchor its soils. 15 to 20% of the planet's entire biodiversity contained within a single country. Each year, scientists identify approximately 700 new species within Brazil's borders. The natural world here continues writing pages that humanity has yet to read. 65% of Brazil's territory remains cloaked in native vegetation, 5 towering biomes spread across the continent, each a separate world governed by its own climate, ecology, and set of rules. Pantanal, Amazon, Mata Atlântica, Cerrado, Caatinga, and thousands of kilometers of Atlantic coastline, each name a doorway into a different realm. 150,000 square kilometers of flooded wetland, spanning 3 nations: Brazil, Bolivia, Paraguay, the largest tropical wetland system on Earth. 80% of the surface sinks beneath water during the wet season. Solid ground vanishes, yielding to a half-submerged realm where the boundary between river and land dissolves entirely. Unlike most major rivers in South America, the Paraguay River, the lifeblood of the Pantanal, remains entirely unobstructed by any dam along its main channel. That free-flowing current is the reason the Pantanal still breathes an unbroken pulse of water that sustains millions of lives across the floodplain. But more than 40 hydroelectric dams are being planned along its tributaries, and every single dam poses a direct, measurable threat to the wetland's delicate seasonal pulse. And across that boundless marshland, a solitary ruler presides in the shadows between water and earth. The Jaguar requires nothing more than darkness and patience. The 3rd largest cat in the world after the tiger and the lion, weighing between 90 and 120 pounds. A compact, muscular frame coiled beneath golden fur marked with black rosettes. A male jaguar can measure just over 6 feet in length, with a 28-inch tail, yet its build is engineered for tangled jungle and swampland rather than open plains. The jaguar's bite force reaches 1,500 psi, the strongest of any cat on Earth relative to body size. Bone, shell, and skull yield alike beneath those jaws. The jaguar deploys that jaw power to pierce through armor. Its bite can puncture a turtle's shell. It can crush a caiman's skull. No other great cat on the planet hunts this way. Jaguar density in the Pantanal reaches 6 to 12 individuals per 100 square kilometers, the highest concentration anywhere in the world. At the Tayama Ecological Station, GPS telemetry has recorded peak densities of 12.4 individuals, a figure that every other habitat on Earth can only envy. The Pantanal jaguar's technique for hunting caiman is globally unique. They hunt in daylight during the hottest hours, when caiman bask on the banks, sluggish and exposed. The jaguar approaches from behind in absolute silence. Not a leaf snaps, not a ripple stirs. The marshland holds its breath. Then it lunges with a precise bite through the caiman's skull behind the eyes, behind the ears where the bone is thinnest and the path to the brain is shortest. The success rate runs at roughly 5%, 1 kill in every 20 attempts, 19 failures for every triumph. Patience, once again, is the absolute prerequisite. "5% sounds low, but when each successful hunt ends with a meal weighing dozens of pounds, a single kill sustains the jaguar for days. Even so, with a ratio of 2,000 caiman for every 1 jaguar in the Pantanal, the odds are stacked generously in the predator's favor. Opportunity never runs dry. At times, the jaguar probes the bankside vegetation with its forepaw feeling for hidden caiman beneath the cover, a technique that no other predator on Earth employs. The jaguar's menu encompasses more than 85 species, from caiman to capybara, turtles to deer, snakes to fish, the most versatile hunter among the great cats. But the jaguar is not the only creature searching for a meal in the Pantanal. Other eyes watch, other appetites stir beneath the waterline. The capybara, the largest rodent on the planet, stands roughly 4 feet in length, weighs between 35 and 66 pounds, and lives in herds of 20 or more. They graze along the water's edge in tight clusters, ears permanently raised, nostrils twitching without pause. A capybara's life is measured not in years, but in seconds of vigilance. During the dry season, as water levels drop, capybara herds can swell to over 100 individuals, clustering around the last remaining pools, a feast laid out for every predator. At the first unfamiliar sound, capybara emit a sharp alarm call, a distinctive bark that carries across the wetland. The entire herd plunges into the water. But this is a mistake. That instinct compels them to repeat a fatal loop encoded deep in their survival programming, because beneath the surface lies the caiman's domain. The Yacaré caiman, waiting just below the still water line, only its eyes and nostrils breaking the surface. A reptilian patience older than any mammal on these banks. The capybara finds itself trapped between two predators. Jaguar on the bank, caiman in the water. Fleeing one means running directly into the jaws of the other. This is the pantanal's food web, where every prey animal simultaneously serves as bait for another, and every step in the wrong direction could be the last. "650 bird species paint the pantanal sky into a living canvas. Jabiru storks with wingspans approaching 10 feet, scarlet macaws ablaze in the canopy, kingfishers diving like sapphire arrows. The pantanal is not ruled by any single predator. It is ruled by the web itself, a mesh of hunger and fear so tightly woven that pulling one thread unravels them all. Each species functions as both regulator and regulated predator and prey woven into the same thread. A fragile network that has operated with precision across millions of years. But this sanctuary is wounded. Beneath its shimmering surface, scars run deep, and the damage grows with each passing season. In 2020, extreme drought triggered wildfires that consumed 30 to 39% of the entire Pantanal, nearly 4 million hectares reduced to ash. In 2024, another 2,600,000 hectares burned, the second catastrophic blaze in 4 years, devastating the Pantanal at a staggering scale. Nearly every fire originated from human activity, deliberate agricultural burns that escaped control and devoured the marshland's fragile vegetation, reducing centuries of growth to smoldering ruin. Yet research revealed something striking. After the 2020 catastrophe, resident jaguars held their territories and refused to flee. 1 year later, jaguar density had increased. Individuals from surrounding regions migrated inward, transforming the Pantanal into a climate refuge. The patient do not run, they wait, and the Pantanal recovers slowly, stubbornly, as it has done for millennia before. The jaguar's patience was forged in the Pantanal's shallows. But 3,000 kilometers north, patience takes a very different form, coiled beneath the surface, waiting to crush. The Amazon. 5 million square kilometers of tropical rainforest, legal Amazon, accounts for 60% of the entire basin. 390 billion trees, blanketing an area the size of Western Europe. That figure defies comprehension. Counting 1 tree per second, day and night without pause, would take more than 12,000 years to finish longer than all of recorded human civilization. The Amazon River discharges 209,000 cubic meters of water per second into the Atlantic, more than the next 7 largest rivers combined. 20% of all fresh water flowing into the world's oceans originates from this single river, a hydrological force unmatched anywhere on the planet. A freshwater current so enormous that it pushes the Atlantic salt water back hundreds of kilometers from the coast, staining the ocean brown with sediment. Beneath the canopy, the richest ecosystem on the planet operates by its own laws. More than 430 reptile species, 1,300 bird species, over 430 mammal species. "1,000 amphibian species, more than on any other continent. Each species a thread in a web so intricate that science has yet to unravel it fully. And the tally climbs each year, as scientists have yet to explore every remote corner of forest where no human footprint has ever fallen and no machete has cleared a path. In 2025, scientists described a stunning turquoise poison dart frog in the Jaguar River basin and a miniature vivid orange toad in the Serra do Quiriri. The Amazon never stops revealing what it has kept hidden for millennia. And in the murky, sediment-laden waters of the Amazon basin, an invisible predator waits. The green anaconda, a consummate ambush specialist, nearly vanishing into the reddish-brown waters of flooded forest rivers. Its mottled olive-green scales mirror the murky current with uncanny precision. Most adults measure 10 to 16 feet in length. Rare, large individuals may reach 20 to 23 feet, though accounts of 26-foot specimens remain largely anecdotal. The anaconda can hold its breath for close to an hour underwater, not 10 minutes, as many mistakenly assume. Its physiology is built for sustained aquatic ambush beyond ordinary reptilian limits. Scientists have documented individuals remaining submerged for up to 50 minutes while consuming prey. The true physiological limit of these serpents exceeds anything previously imagined. And here, science has overturned a myth that persisted for centuries. The anaconda does not kill its prey through suffocation. It kills by circulatory arrest. When an anaconda constricts, the pressure reaches 300 psi, strong enough to collapse major blood vessels. Blood ceases to circulate. The brain and heart are severed from oxygen. The prey loses consciousness in seconds, not minutes. Death arrives far more swiftly and more mercifully than anyone once believed, a clinical efficiency refined over millions of years. The anaconda hunts the same categories of prey as the jaguar, capybara, caiman, deer, but in an entirely different arena. The water is its ambush chamber. If the jaguar is the king of the riverbank, the anaconda is the uncontested sovereign of the current. Two rulers, two overlapping kingdoms, sharing territory yet rarely coming into direct conflict. Above the waterline, 4 tiers of Amazon canopy create a world wholly apart where sunlight must battle through layer upon layer of foliage to reach the forest floor. 90% of the light is blocked before it reaches the lowest level. The world below exists in near perpetual darkness, heavy with moisture and the scent of decay. But high above, where the canopy meets the equatorial sun, life erupts in brilliant profusion. And within that elevated realm, one creature has pushed the strategy of concealment to its absolute extreme. The sloth, the slowest moving mammal on the planet. Average speed, 6.5 feet per minute. For comparison, A garden snail moves faster. But slowness is not a weakness. Slowness is a weapon. Predators detect prey through movement. No movement, no detection. A principle that is simple, yet devastatingly effective. The sloth has built its entire survival strategy on this single truth. The same concealment principle the jaguar employs when ambushing prey, yet the sloth applies it for the precisely opposite purpose: to survive rather than to kill. Green algae growing across its fur creates a seamless camouflage amid the canopy. Viewed from below, the sloth appears as nothing more than a motionless clump of moss. More than 70 species of moths and insects live symbiotically in its coat, a miniature ecosystem traveling on the back of the planet's slowest creature. An exceptionally low metabolic rate allows the sloth to subsist on a quantity of food that would starve any other mammal. Evolution does not favor the strongest or the fastest. It favors the most adapted. The Amazon harbors 10% of all bird species on Earth, 1,300 species, from the blazing scarlet macaw to the toucan with its 8-inch bill. The harpy eagle, armed with talons 5 inches long, rivaling those of a grizzly bear, perches motionless in the upper canopy for hours on end, patiently awaiting a sloth or monkey to reveal itself. It can detect prey from over 650 feet away and carry quarry weighing half its own body weight through the treetops, the most silent hunter of the high canopy. If Brazil's remarkable biodiversity captivates you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Every voice helps carry these stories further. Yet this expansive forest now approaches a threshold that science calls the tipping point, a line beyond which recovery may become impossible. (17 to 18% of the Amazon has already been cleared. The tipping threshold sits at 22 to 28%, according to research published in Nature in 2026. The gap between the present and the point of no return stands at just 4 to 10%, a margin so thin it could vanish within a few decades, perhaps fewer. Beyond that threshold, the rainforest begins an irreversible transformation into degraded savanna-like ecosystems. The earliest projections place this collapse in the 2040s. The southeastern Amazon has already become a net carbon emitter, releasing more than it absorbs. A paradox this forest has never faced in millions of years of existence. Yet amid the data, a signal of hope emerges. For 3 consecutive years, Amazon deforestation rates have declined, a fragile but unmistakable shift. Between 2024 and 2025, only 5,796 square kilometers were lost, the lowest figure in 11 years. An 11% reduction from the previous monitoring cycle. The trajectory bends in the right direction, but the race against time remains far from won. The Amazon, however, is not the only biome fighting for survival. To the southeast, another forest, older, smaller, and far more ravaged, holds on by a thread. Along the southeastern coast of Brazil, where mountains meet the sea, and year-round mist cloaks the steep slopes, an ancient forest once stretched like a green ocean, now only fragments remain. Mata Atlântica. Originally, this forest spanned 1,300,000 square kilometers, a colossal green ribbon running the entire length of Brazil's coastline from north to south. Today, roughly 24% still stands a fraction of its former grandeur. Most of it is secondary or regenerating forest, and undisturbed primary growth accounts for just 7 to 12%. What survives, however, defies comprehension. Within these scattered remnants lies a concentration of life so dense it rivals anything the tropics can offer. In southern Bahia, scientists have counted up to 450 tree species in a single hectare, a world record for woody plant density. One hectare of Mata Atlântica forest holds more diversity than the entire woodland area of many European nations. That biological wealth compressed into an almost inconceivably small space. "20,000 plant species, 2,000 vertebrate species, 854 endemic amphibians, 71% found exclusively in Brazil and nowhere else on the face of the earth." The water supply for over 70% of Brazil's population, approximately 145 million people, depends on this besieged forest. In the heart of Rio de Janeiro, the Tijuca forest, 4,000 hectares, replanted from 1861 by order of Emperor Pedro II, stands as living proof that Mata Atlântica can regenerate when given the chance. Beneath the damp canopy of Mata Atlântica, a massive creature moves in near total silence, its bulk belied by the gentleness of its tread. The tapir, up to 6.5 feet long, weighing 150 to 300 pounds, the largest land mammal in South America, its short, flexible trunk sweeping through the undergrowth. The tapir walks soundlessly beneath the canopy, feeding on fallen fruit, young leaves, and seeds. That quiet passage transforms it into the forest's unwitting gardener. The tapir swallows seeds in one location and deposits them kilometers away, dispersing new growth across sweeping distances. It plants forest for its own predator without ever knowing. That predator, the jaguar in Mata Atlântica, now teeters on the edge of extinction, its numbers dwindling with every hectare of forest lost. Only a few dozen individuals survive in small, fragmented forest patches, genetically isolated and severed from one another by sprawling cities, highways, and industrial agriculture. The tapir plants forest. The jaguar needs forest to survive. But the forest vanishes faster than the tapir can scatter its seeds, an ecological equation tilting toward collapse. Yet amid the destruction, one story has astonished the world, a tale of near-total collapse reversed by sheer human determination. The golden lion tamarin, a diminutive primate, cloaked in fur the color of flame, weighing less than a single pound. In the 1970s, the wild population collapsed to roughly 200 individuals, a genetic bottleneck so narrow that extinction appeared to be merely a matter of time. Humans intervened. Captive breeding programs combined with vegetation, bridges, forest corridors, stitching isolated fragments back together pulled this species from the brink. Today, the golden lion tamarin population has climbed to several thousand. Every member of the group shares in rearing the young, the father, notably carries the infants more than the mother does. Twins are common, and the entire troop divides the responsibility of care, a cooperative social model that larger, supposedly more intelligent primates might well envy. Where Mata Atlantica's canopy ends, a different kind of wild begins. One that hides its greatest secrets, not above, but below the surface. Impenetrable forest yields to sweeping grassland, dotted with gnarled, twisted trees whose thick bark has evolved to withstand fire and drought. Cerrado, a name that few outside Brazil have heard, yet one that shelters a staggering share of the planet's living wealth. Two million square kilometers, 22% of Brazil's territory. From above, it resembles the golden sweep of the African savanna. Beneath the surface, however, everything inverts. Two-thirds of the Cerrado's plant biomass lies underground, a far-reaching root network, plunging many feet deep, forming an upside-down forest invisible to the naked eye. If the Amazon is the forest that can be seen from space, the Cerrado is the forest that hides beneath the surface. Most of its life waits below the soil, poised to erupt with the rains. The most biodiverse savanna on the planet. 5% of all species worldwide. 30% of Brazil's total biodiversity contained within an ecosystem most of the world cannot even name. And through the Cerrado each night, a strange creature patrols its territory with long, deliberate strides through the silver-lit grass. The maned wolf, South America's largest canid, resembles a fox mounted on stilts. Those abnormally long legs lift its gaze above the tall grass, scanning for prey and for danger. Each night, the maned wolf covers 20 kilometers, alone and silent. No pack, no allies, only darkness and a pair of acutely tuned ears. The maned wolf is the sole member of the genus Chrysocyon, sharing no close kinship with any wolf or fox. a solitary evolutionary branch adrift in the grasslands. The strangest trait of the maned wolf, though, is neither its stature nor its solitude. 50% of its diet is fruit lobera, the so-called wolf apple, the most omnivorous canid on Earth. The bond between the maned wolf and the lobera plant is a seamless mutualism. The wolf eats the fruit and disperses the seeds across the cerrado floor. The fruit may shield the wolf from a devastating giant kidney parasite, a predator that cultivates its own medicine, a pharmacist of the grasslands. Under cerrado moonlight, the pampas deer, standing 4 feet tall, weighing 20 to 40 pounds, moves in a state of perpetual vigilance, ears rotating like twin radar dishes. Speed is their sole defense against jaguar and maned wolf. Each step is a survival calculation. Stand still too long and die. Bolt too early and squander precious energy. Pampas deer numbers have dropped sharply as native grasslands give way to soybean fields and cattle ranches. These animals require open ground to run, and that ground is shrinking with every planting season. The cerrado, however, faces devastation faster than any other biome in Brazil. Its grasslands are being consumed at a pace that outstrips even the Amazon's losses. .9% of its native vegetation has been converted. Agricultural expansion has surged 533% since 1985. A legal loophole deepens the crisis. Brazil's forest code permits private landowners to clear up to 80% of native vegetation on their property, a provision that has accelerated the cerrado's decline. In the Amazon, that figure is only 20%. One nation, two vastly different standards of environmental protection, and the cerrado bears the heaviest cost. In 2024, the cerrado accounted for 52.5% of ALL native vegetation loss across Brazil, more than the Amazon itself. Beyond the cerrado's grasslands, rainfall dwindles to almost nothing, and the landscape bleaches to bone white under a relentless sun. Caatinga. The name itself speaks of a landscape unlike any other, a place where survival is not guaranteed, but earned. 844,000 square kilometers, 10% of Brazil's territory. The only biome on the planet that exists exclusively within Brazilian borders. Caatinga in the Tupi-Guarani language means white forest, because in the dry season, plants shed every leaf and the trunks turn ghostly pale, conjuring an eerie landscape in broad daylight. 900 vertebrate species have adapted to these harsh, semi-arid conditions where daytime temperatures can exceed 40 degrees Celsius and rain falls for only a few months each year. Life here is not granted by the landscape. It is wrested drop by drop from the dust, earned through adaptation. Yet one species among them nearly vanished altogether. Lear's macaw, a magnificent blue macaw, utterly dependent on the licuri palm nut for survival. Its plumage shimmers like cobalt under the Caatinga sun. In the 1980s, only about 60 individuals remained worldwide. 60. The entire species stood at the threshold of oblivion. "40 years later, in 2025, the population has surpassed 2,500 individuals, a resurrection that conservation science rarely achieves. Conservation succeeded through a deceptively simple formula, compensating local farmers for crop damage and planting additional licuri palms across the arid landscape of the region. A new threat, however, now looms. Large-scale wind farms are proliferating across Caatinga, claiming land and creating collision risks for those rare blue wings. From the white desert of Caatinga, the final passage leads to the coast where the continent meets the Atlantic Ocean and a new chapter of biodiversity begins. "7,400 kilometers of coastline. From northern mangrove forests to white sand beaches in the south, Brazil's marine ecosystems rival the richness found on land. Beneath the surface, sharks, hammerhead, tiger, bull shark patrol like silent phantoms, apex predators of the open ocean, holding the entire marine food web in equilibrium. Where sharks disappear, coral reef ecosystems collapse in their wake, a cascading chain of ecological failure that scientists term trophic cascade, unraveling decades of balance in months. And each year, from the frigid waters near Antarctica, enormous visitors arrive, crossing half the globe on a journey that has endured for millennia. The humpback whale, 14 to 18 meters long, weighing 40 tons, migrates 8,000 kilometers from feeding grounds near Antarctica to breed in Brazil's warm coastal waters. "8,000 kilometers, the distance from Lisbon to Tokyo, and the humpback swims that passage every year, there and back again, guided by magnetic fields and ancestral memory. Pectoral fins stretching up to 16 feet, the longest of any whale species, trace graceful arcs through crystalline water. Each winter, Brazil's coastline becomes a nursery for these giants, where mothers guide newborn calves through warm, shallow waters before together turning south once more. From the wetlands of Pantanal to the Amazon rainforest, from besieged Mata Atlantica to the inverted Cerrado, from the white desert of Caatinga to the deep blue Atlantic, each biome is a chapter in the story of life. All of them now confront the same adversary, a force that respects no border and spares no habitat. 2024 was the hottest year in recorded history since measurements began in 1850. Global mean temperatures rose 1.29 degrees Celsius above the 20th century average and 1.46 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial baselines, numbers that translate into drought, wildfire, and extinction. Southeastern Amazon has turned from carbon sink into carbon source. Pantanal burns. Cerrado is carved apart for soybean and cattle. Caatinga faces creeping desertification. Mata Atlantica fractures into ever smaller shards. Every predator encountered across this land — jaguar, green anaconda, maned wolf — shark faces a common enemy that cannot be ambushed, cannot be outrun, and cannot be outlasted. Habitat loss. Yet Brazil also stands as proof that human hands can mend what they have broken, that destruction is not always the final chapter. Lear's macaw, from 60 individuals to more than 2,500. A species that stared into oblivion and returned, one fledgling at a time. The golden lion tamarin. From 200 to several thousand, every infant born carries upon its shoulders 40 years of human effort. The Yacaré caiman, from the edge of extinction to 10 million individuals after the poaching ban of 1992. Evidence that the natural world stands ready to forgive if humanity agrees to stop. The Jaguar Corridor Initiative, a transnational rewilding effort spanning Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, and Paraguay, is stitching severed forest fragments back together, restoring ancient migration routes. AI-powered identification technology has catalogued more than 450 individual jaguars across multiple reserves, enabling researchers to monitor population health and protect each animal. No two jaguars wear the same coat. Each rosette pattern is singular, and AI can now identify every individual from a single camera trap photograph. For 3 consecutive years, Amazon deforestation has fallen. Indigenous communities, recognized as the most effective forest stewards on the planet, are reclaiming the right to protect their ancestral territories. The solutions are no secret. Halt illegal deforestation, restore degraded land, enforce existing protections, and above all, respect the territories of communities that have safeguarded these forests for thousands of years. The indigenous peoples of the Amazon, Cerrado, and Caatinga have demonstrated what modern science is only beginning to grasp. A forest is not merely trees, but a living network binding everything together. Wild Brazil serves as a reminder that nature is not an inexhaustible resource, but a living system that breathes, that responds, that remembers. From the African savanna to the marshes of Pantanal, from the Amazon rainforest to the desert of Caatinga, one law persists throughout every biome, every season. Life endures through equilibrium, a calibration refined across geological time. Break it, and the collapse is not slow. It is sudden, total, and it does not wait for permission. The lion knows when to retreat. The jaguar knows when to wait. The question remains whether humankind possesses the wisdom to learn the same lesson. Every living species carries within it an extraordinary story. Stories that nature spent millions of years writing, and that humanity can erase in a single generation. Thank you for joining us on WildVerse. The natural world still holds countless stories waiting to be told. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. We'll see you on the next journey. On the African savanna, a lioness lies motionless. Her 300-pound frame presses flat against the sun-baked earth, every fiber of muscle coiled tight as a compressed spring. She has not eaten in 4 days. Ribs press sharp ridges beneath her faded, tawny coat. Her eyes, twin ambers, cold and unblinking, never leave the target ahead. Her cubs wait in distant scrub. Each one barely 3 months old. Today she must bring back food, or they will not survive the week. "40 yards ahead, a massive dark shape tears at the dry grass. Not an antelope, not a zebra. It is a Cape buffalo, widely regarded as the most dangerous prey animal on the African continent. Each adult Cape buffalo tips the scales at close to 2,000 pounds. Horns curved like forged steel scythes carry enough force to hurl a full-grown lion skyward. She has chosen her target with care, but this time, the chosen prey can kill the hunter. "130 feet. Too far. A lioness must close within 100 feet before she strikes. Beyond that distance, the game is lost before it starts." A 115 feet. The wind shifts. Dry grass mingles with the scent of buffalo dung. If the breeze reverses, her scent will betray everything. 100 feet. She freezes in place. 2 other lionesses, flanking from opposite sides, tighten the closing noose. Wing formation, a coordinated tactic honed across thousands of hunts. One second of stillness. Then she launches. "50 miles per hour peak velocity, sustained for only a few explosive seconds before her muscles begin to burn. Dust erupts in blinding clouds. The herd detonates into panic. Hooves pound the hardpan like rolling thunder. But the lead bull does not flee. He pivots on massive hooves, horns leveled straight at the attacker. 1,800 pounds of bone and muscle charges headlong into the assault. The lioness swerves a half-beat too slow. A horn rakes along her flank. The impact alone could shatter bone. Seven of every 10 hunts end precisely this way. In failure, in hunger, in blood and wounds. The buffalo survives. The lioness may not. But on the African savanna, raw hunger is not the only enemy that awaits. From the east, a chorus of whooping calls slices through the twilight air. Not one voice. 6, 7, perhaps 8 low-slung shadowy figures advance with deliberate purpose. Spotted hyenas. Their massive jaws generate a crushing bite force of 1,100 psi, hundreds of pounds stronger than any lion's bite. They pulverize bones that lions cannot crack and must abandon. This is no fleeting skirmish over a single carcass. This is a war that has raged for 2 million years across the grasslands of Africa, and neither side has ever claimed absolute victory. Spotted hyenas live in tightly organized matriarchal societies, Females dominate males in every aspect of clan hierarchy, territory, and feeding order. They communicate through more than 11 distinct vocalizations, ranging from deep, guttural moans to shrill, piercing laughter that echoes for miles across the open plains. The lioness throws back her head and roars. The sound carries 5 miles across the open plain, shaking the air like a concussive blast. The hyena pack halts, retreats a few cautious steps. But they do not leave, they simply wait. The lioness must try again. This time she selects different prey, a herd of wildebeest drifting along the western ridge. Smaller than Cape buffalo, considerably faster, 50 miles per hour matching a lion stride for stride, but without the curved steel horns and the dangerous instinct to turn and fight. She closes the distance. The wing formation draws tighter. One young wildebeest drifts half a beat behind the rest of the herd, slower by a fraction. A fatal mistake. In under 3 seconds, the lioness explodes forward, seizes the shoulder of her prey with outstretched claws, and drags it to the ground. Dust billows skyward, obscuring everything. When it settles, the struggle is over. But on the savannah, victory is never complete. The whooping calls return. The hyenas circle back, more of them now. They have not come to fight. They have come to steal. The lioness eats with desperate haste, tearing flesh in ragged strips. Her eyes never leave the surrounding darkness where luminous green eyes watch intently, counting every mouthful that disappears. That is the iron law of the savannah. A kill does not guarantee a meal. Defending the prize against all comers, that is true survival. On the open plains of East Africa, raw muscle and iron patience alone determine who lives and who perishes before nightfall. The lioness has been shaped across millions of years of natural selection into the most refined terrestrial hunting machine on Earth, and even she fails 7 times out of 10. But terrestrial power, no matter how refined or how lethal, has its limits. There exist kingdoms on this planet where no roar can reach and no claw can threaten, where the hunter needs no muscle but something deeper, something far more ancient. "63 million square miles of surface, 25,000 islands scattered across the blue, one ocean, a realm where even a killing machine, 400 million years in the making, must flee from a mind sharper than its own. If, on the savannah, power belongs to the strongest body, then beneath the ocean, power belongs to the most intelligent mind. This is the story of the wild Pacific. The Pacific Ocean, the single largest body of water on Earth, stretches from the frozen Arctic to the windswept Antarctic, covering nearly 1/3 of the planet's entire surface. But not all waters are alike. Some regions are liquid desert devoid of life, devoid of sound, devoid of hope. Others erupt with biological force that defies easy explanation. The coast of Japan is one of the most biologically dynamic places on the planet. From the south, the Kuroshio Current carries warm tropical water along the archipelago with staggering speed and heat temperatures between 68 and 77 degrees Fahrenheit. From the north, the frigid, mineral-rich Oyashio Current descends from the Bering Sea and the Sea of Okhotsk, carrying water at a mere 37 to 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Where these two great currents collide, something wondrous occurs. Warm water clashes violently against cold. Nutrients, locked in the deep, are thrust upward toward the sunlit surface. Algae bloom in vast emerald clouds. Plankton populations explode by the billions. And from this single oceanographic collision, the entire food chain ignites. The Kuroshio-Oyashio convergence zone, where biological productivity runs 2 to 5 times higher than surrounding waters, stands as one of Earth's greatest oceanographic phenomena. Beneath this seemingly placid surface, each layer of water forms its own kingdom. Each species occupies a precise role in the hierarchy, and the ocean does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most cunning. But to understand who truly commands the apex of the ocean's hierarchy, one must first descend to the lowest tier, where the smallest creatures guard the greatest secrets. Begin at the coral reefs of Okinawa, a vast submerged city beneath the warm turquoise waters of southern Japan. Here, a creature smaller than a human finger holds the key to one of the most spectacular transformations in the entire natural world. Seen from above, a living coral reef resembles a sprawling metropolis, complete with wide boulevards, narrow alleyways, towering hard coral edifices, and fragile sea fan gardens swaying gently in the current. Okinawa harbors roughly 400 coral species, a level of diversity that ranks among the highest anywhere on Earth. The Sekisei Lagoon, stretching between Iriomote and Ishigaki, is the largest coral reef system in all of Japan. Though coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, they shelter more than 1/4 of all known marine species. 1% of the area, yet 1/4 of all ocean life. No structure built by human hands has ever achieved such an arresting ratio. Every square inch of living reef is a fiercely contested territorial battleground among shrimp, crabs, bristleworms, snails, and hundreds of small fish species, all crammed into spaces smaller than a wardrobe. And amid this densely populated coral metropolis, one tiny resident glides effortlessly through the lethal tentacles of a sea anemone entirely unharmed. The clownfish, barely 4.5 inches long, its bright orange and white colors blaze so vividly they border on deliberate provocation. Any other creature foolish enough to brush against an anemone's tentacles suffers instant and devastating paralysis. Thousands of stinging cells called nematocysts fire venom faster than a bullet. Yet the clownfish swims through them as though passing through its own front door. Because that is precisely what it is. A specialized glycoprotein mucus layer coats the clownfish's entire body, functioning as an invisible chemical shield, preventing the nematocysts from recognizing it as a viable target. Groundbreaking research from the Okinawa Institute of Science in 2025 revealed that the key mechanism lies in extremely low sialic acid levels within the mucus, rendering the clownfish invisible to the venom. In return, the clownfish diligently removes parasites and dead tissue from the anemone's tentacles, earning its shelter through constant service. Studies show that the presence of a clownfish accelerates anemone growth by 3 times thanks to constant fin movement, improving oxygen flow around the host. A flawless symbiotic pact written in the language of chemistry, requiring no words and no negotiation. But the clownfish's most stunning secret does not reside in its mucus coating. It resides in its sex. Each clownfish community follows a rigid social hierarchy. A single female, the largest individual, rules. One breeding male ranks directly beneath her. The remaining fish are non-breeding males, lined up in strict hierarchical order. Every single clownfish is born male, no exceptions. When the dominant female dies, the largest male does not seek a new mate. Testosterone levels in its body plummet. Estrogen surges through its bloodstream. Testicular tissue undergoes a complete metamorphosis into functional ovarian tissue. Within weeks, the male becomes a fully reproductive female, permanently and irreversibly. Science calls this protandrous hermaphroditism, a clinical term that barely captures the grandeur of one of nature's most spectacular biological metamorphoses. The next male in the hierarchy automatically ascends to breeding status. The cycle continues. No conflict, no competition, only biochemical precision as exact as clockwork. A creature smaller than a finger, living in the deadly embrace of a killer, possesses the extraordinary ability to rewrite its own biological design. In the ocean, survival does not belong to the largest or the fastest. Sometimes it belongs to the creature willing to transform its very essence, its biology, its identity when circumstances demand nothing less. The clownfish understood this truth long before Darwin ever wrote his first line. But the lowest tier of the ocean is not safe. Nowhere in the ocean is ever safe. Beyond the sheltering reef, where coral gives way to open water, life wears an entirely different face. Here, a reptile of immense antiquity carries on its armored back an instinct 200 million years old. A beach in southern Japan. Deep darkness. A massive dark form crawls slowly and heavily from the surf. Every step across the sand demands tremendous effort. A body engineered to glide through water now battles gravity on land. The loggerhead sea turtle, Caretta caretta, a reptile that has navigated these waters since the age of dinosaurs. Tonight, this female returns to the very beach where she hatched perhaps 40 years ago, perhaps longer. Yakushima Island, Japan's largest and most vital loggerhead nesting ground, receives between 2,000 and 7,000 nests each breeding season. Every nesting season, volunteers stand guard through the night, protecting each egg from predators and artificial light. The mother excavates her nest slowly with both hind flippers like two patient spoons. She lays her eggs, covers them with sand, erases her tracks, and returns to the sea without looking back. From that precise moment, the fate of every buried egg depends on a single variable temperature. "45 to 70 days later, the sand begins to stir with movement from below. Dozens of hatchlings, each no larger than a human palm, claw their way upward and emerge from the nest. A single overriding instinct drives every hatchling forward, race toward the reflected shimmer of moonlight on the ocean surface. They scramble toward the water, if one can call the desperate flailing of a tiny, fragile body across open sand scrambling. But between nest and sea stretches a miniature and merciless desert filled with enemies. Seabirds dive from above. Ghost crabs lurk in the moonlit shadows. The distance from nest to water may be only 100 feet, but for a hatchling weighing less than an ounce, those 100 feet become a marathon between life and death. Of every 1,000 hatchlings that claw their way to the surface, perhaps only one will survive long enough to reach adulthood. The fortunate few will embark on one of nature's epic migrations, crossing the entire Pacific on a round-trip journey of 7,500 miles to the distant shores of Baja California. That is the law of the ocean. But this cycle faces a growing threat, and the greatest danger comes not from birds or crabs. It comes from temperature. Sea turtles determine sex through incubation temperature. Warmer sands produce females, cooler sands produce males. The pivotal threshold sits at roughly 84 degrees Fahrenheit. If temperatures rise by just a few degrees, entire generations will skew more than 90% female. A species will lose its capacity to reproduce normally. The equation is terrifying precisely because it is so simple. But beneath the sunlit coral canopy, deeper still, where light begins to fade and colors drain away, something watches, not with curiosity, with hunger. And even the most finely tuned predator harbors a fear of its own. That fear will surface, but not yet. A single dorsal fin slices the waterline, slow, steady, like a blade drawn deliberately across silk. 20 feet long, over 2 tons, more than 50 triangular teeth stacked in rotating rows when one falls. Another slides forward to replace it. A conveyor belt of weaponry that never stops. The great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias, is a creature that 400 million years of relentless evolution have sculpted and refined into a near-perfect killing instrument. "400 million years before the first dinosaurs appeared, before trees had even colonized the barren land, the ancestors of modern sharks already prowled the dark primordial oceans. And while everything around them changed, continents collided and drifted apart, ice ages came and went, 5 catastrophic mass extinctions erased the vast majority of life sharks endured. The great white itself is only about 16 million years old, but its lineage is the legacy of 400 million years of natural selection. Its body is engineered with a precision no human designer could improve. The jaw holds roughly 300 teeth in total, with 50 always active in the front row, triangular, scalpel sharp. Over the course of a lifetime, a single great white may cycle through thousands upon thousands of teeth. But what makes this species truly fearsome extends far beyond weaponry alone. The great white is endothermic warm-blooded, an exceedingly rare trait among fish. A complex network of blood vessels called the rete mirabile keeps its body warmer than the surrounding water. Muscles fire harder and with greater endurance. Reflexes sharpen to a predatory edge. The brain processes sensory information faster than any cold-blooded rival. In the frigid waters surrounding Hokkaido, where winter temperatures routinely drop below 50 degrees Fahrenheit, the great white's body remains an engine heated and sustained from within. The electroreceptor system on its snout, called the ampullae of Lorenzini, detects electric fields as faint as 5 billionths of a volt per centimeter, sensitive enough to read the heartbeat of prey buried beneath sand. But the most formidable weapon in the great white's arsenal is not the sensor array. It is the tactic. The breach, the single most spectacular hunting technique in the entire ocean. The shark descends deep beneath its unsuspecting prey, usually a seal swimming at the surface. Then it looks up. The prey appears as a dark silhouette against a bright sky. From below, the seal is nothing but a shadow on shimmering water, a perfect target, nowhere to hide. Then the shark accelerates vertically 25 miles per hour. 2 tons of muscle launch upward like a living torpedo. The seal never sees the shadow rising beneath it, never has time to react. Jaws slam shut. Gravity seizes both bodies and pulls them back into the deep. Not every breach succeeds, but when one does, no prey gets a second chance. A great white's natural lifespan can exceed 70 years, spanning longer than most chapters of recorded human history. Recent scientific studies reveal that great whites possess distinct individual personalities, unexpectedly complex social behaviors, and even engage in social foraging, learning the location of productive feeding grounds from one another. If an engineer were tasked with designing the perfect underwater killing machine, optimal hydrodynamics, a multi-layered sensor suite, self-replacing weaponry, the final product would look exactly like a great white shark. But not every ocean predator chooses to single out one target at a time. In the warm Pacific waters, another apex patrol emerges broad-headed, strong-jawed, teeth curved and serrated like the blades of a saw. The tiger shark. 16 feet of raw power and length. The predator with the widest dietary menu in the entire shark world. Fish, seabirds, sea turtles, stingrays, floating carrion, even debris discarded by human hands have all been found inside their stomachs. Not a picky eater, the ocean's supreme scavenger and apex enforcer. The tiger shark's constant presence creates a pervasive landscape of fear, preventing sea turtles and mugongs from overgrazing vulnerable seagrass beds, thereby shielding entire coastal ecosystems. When tiger sharks vanish from a region, seagrass meadows collapse in their wake, an invisible link in the chain that few observers ever notice. But even a predator refined across 400 million years harbors something to fear. And that something does not dwell in the midwater. It lives far deeper then, rises to the surface. "650 feet below the shimmering waterline, the mesopelagic zone, light dims like the last embers of a dying fire. 1,600 feet darkness begins swallowing everything whole. "3,280 feet, the abyssal zone. Light vanishes completely, as though it never existed. Temperature hovers near freezing. Pressure builds to levels that would crush a conventional submarine like tinfoil. The Japan Trench does not stop at 3,000 feet. It keeps descending 6,000, 9,000, 16,000 to over 26,000 feet, just off the coast of Honshu. A fracture in the Earth's crust, so deep that if Mount Fuji were placed inside, its summit would still rest thousands of feet beneath the surface. Not far away lies the Mariana Trench, nearly 36,000 feet at the Challenger Deep, the deepest point on the planet. At these depths, darkness is not merely the absence of light. It is a physical presence, dense, heavy, absolute. No eye can see. No ear can hear in the conventional sense. Yet, the abyss is far from empty. It has a master. And that master does not use eyes to see or ears to hear. It uses sound, but a kind of sound no other creature on Earth can produce. "236 decibels, the loudest sound generated by any living organism on the face of this planet. From the abyss rises a single click, then another, then a continuous volley of percussive bursts. Each click penetrates the water column like living sonar, mapping the invisible world ahead. longer than a city bus, heavier than 45 tons. The head alone occupies a full 1/3 of the body's total length, the largest toothed animal that has ever existed on this planet. The sperm whale, Physeter macrocephalus, the undisputed sovereign of the deep abyss. Inside that cavernous head sits the spermaceti organ, a biological reservoir holding tons of waxy oil unique among all living creatures. Its precise function remains a subject of vigorous scientific debate. But one thing researchers know with certainty: it is the source of the most powerful sound ever produced by a living creature. The sperm whale interprets returning echoes through specialized fat deposits in its lower jaw, constructing an intricate three-dimensional map of a world shrouded in total and permanent darkness. No eyes needed. It sees through sound alone. And the sperm whale's quarry at these crushing depths is the elusive giant squid. The clash between sperm whale and giant squid remains one of nature's greatest and most enduring unsolved mysteries. No camera has ever captured the encounter. No light reaches those depths. No human has ever witnessed it. Only evidence remains: circular scars, the unmistakable imprint of sucker discs, etched deep into whale skin like medals earned in battle. Some scars span several inches across, proof that the adversary is no small opponent. Every single adult sperm whale bears these battle scars somewhere on its body. No exceptions. At invisible depths, titanic battles unfold in absolute and total silence. After a single dive, the recorded maximum reaches 7,380 feet. A sperm whale may rest at the surface for hours afterward, breathing deeply, recovering its depleted oxygen stores, and gazing at the open sky through eyes that seem impossibly small for such an immense body. Their social lives prove equally compelling and complex. Females and calves form tight-knit pods that travel together through warmer tropical waters. They defend one another with coordinated formations, nurse each other's young, and communicate through intricate click sequences that scientists have come to call codas. In 2024, groundbreaking research from MIT and Project Cheetahs revealed that codas possess combinatorial structure resembling a phonetic alphabet with the potential to generate limitless combinations of meaning. A communication system bearing structural properties that are strikingly close to those of human language. Adult males follow a profoundly different path. They leave the safety of the pod, swimming alone into the frigid polar waters of the far north, solitary, enormous, and utterly silent. The sperm whale commands formidable physical power, unlike any other toothed predator, but it also carries a burden of profound solitude. And in the ocean, solitude is always a vulnerability. Because true dominion in the ocean does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most intelligent, and the most intelligent never hunts alone. If the ocean has left you speechless, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have not yet subscribed, now is the perfect time. But before the true ruler appears, one more species deserves its story, a predator that turned its bizarre anatomy into a flawless weapon. In the warm western Pacific, where coral reefs slope into submerged ridges and drop-offs, a strange silhouette emerges from the blue. A shark's body, but the head flares outward on both sides like a primitive stone hammer. The hammerhead shark family, Sphinidae. The dramatically widened head, known as the cephalofoil, may appear grotesque to human eyes, but beneath the ocean's surface, it functions as a complete and devastatingly efficient hunting system. Eyes positioned at each tip grant a vastly expanded field of vision. The head's surface bristles with hundreds of electroreceptors, the ampullae of Lorenzini. These organs detect faint electrical impulses from muscles, nerve fibers, and the heartbeat of living prey. Beneath fine sand, a stingray lies nearly motionless, its flattened body dusted with pale sediment, skin tone blending with the surrounding seabed, rendering it virtually invisible. But the hammerhead does not hunt by sight alone. Gliding low over the sand, the wide head sweeps gently from side to side like a living metal detector. A stingray can conceal its shape. It cannot conceal its heartbeat. At Yonaguni Island, the westernmost inhabited point of the entire Japanese archipelago, hammerhead sharks congregate in vast schools of 50 to over 200 individuals around underwater cleaning stations. From a distance, the spectacle resembles a phantom squadron drifting through the ocean. But the hammerhead's tragedy lies in a cruel and bitter irony. A creature exquisitely designed to read heartbeats, buried beneath sand, cannot sense the single greatest threat now stalking it. Fishing nets carry no heartbeat for the sensors to detect. Longline hooks emit no electrical pulse to trigger alarm. The scalloped hammerhead critically endangered, according to the IUCN Red List. Populations have plummeted by more than 80% in recent decades. When they vanish, the ocean loses its silent and irreplaceable sentinel. And the ocean's most intelligent and most feared predator, the one that makes every other creature in the sea tremble, draws closer now. A dorsal fin, nearly 6 feet tall, cleaves the ocean's surface with surgical precision. Then another fin appears. Then 5. Then 10. They move in absolute unison, no fin out of rhythm, no shadow falling behind. The orca, or Chinese orca. Most people call them killer whales, but that name ranks among the greatest misnomers in the history of biology. Orcas are not whales at all. They belong to the family Delphinidae, the oceanic dolphins. They are the largest dolphins on the planet. Adult males can reach 32 feet in length, weigh up to an imposing 8 tons, and achieve explosive burst speeds of 34.5 miles per hour, outpacing any shark species alive. But neither raw size nor explosive speed is what makes every creature in the ocean fear the orca above all others. It is the brain. The orca brain ranks among the most complex in the animal kingdom. Its insular cortex, governing emotion and social awareness, more elaborate than that of humans. Orcas do not merely hunt, they strategize. In the cold Norwegian fjords, orcas hunt Atlantic herring using a coordinated technique known as carousel feeding. The entire pod encircles the herring school, compressing thousands of fish into a single tight bait ball. Exhaled bubbles form an invisible curtain wall. Then each orca rolls gracefully and strikes the bait ball with a devastating tail fluke. Every blow precisely aimed, every blow deliberate. Each orca fulfills a designated role. In Antarctic waters, the strategy transforms entirely. Wave washing, perfectly synchronized swimming that generates powerful artificial waves, sweeping unsuspecting seals clean off their ice floes. A tactic demanding flawless coordination among 4 or 5 individuals swimming in tight formation. And this behavior is not innate. It is taught, practiced, and perfected over years. Mothers teach their calves through patient demonstration. Grandmothers teach their grandcalves. Each pod, the fundamental orca family unit, possesses its own hunting techniques, its own vocal dialect, its own dietary traditions. Scientists call this culture, a term once reserved exclusively for humans. In the northwestern Pacific Basin, at least 2 to 3 distinct orca ecotypes coexist. Residents specializing in salmon and other fish, transients specializing in hunting marine mammals, and the lesser-studied offshore population. Near Raosu, off eastern Hokkaido, orcas have been documented hunting stellar sea lions in direct attacks. But the moment that rewrote every rule in the ocean occurred elsewhere off the coast of South Africa. Two orcas, nicknamed Port and Starboard because their dorsal fins list in opposite directions, have single-handedly redrawn the ocean's entire map of power. They hunt great white sharks. Not by accident, not in self-defense, with a single purpose: to harvest the liver. Great white shark liver is rich in squalane, a concentrated energy source. Port and Starboard dissect their shark prey with surgical precision, flipping the great white belly up to trigger a state of tonic immobility, then extracting the nutrient-dense liver intact. The rest of the carcass is discarded. In 2023, Starboard accomplished something never before documented, killing a juvenile great white alone, completely solo, without Port. When orcas appear in a stretch of ocean, great white sharks vanish, not for hours, not for days, but for months. Research from the Farallon Institute of Oceanography and data from Dr. Alison Towner in South Africa confirm the same conclusion. 400 million years of painstaking evolution, a body perfected down to each serrated tooth, a sensory system that surpasses all modern human technology, and every advantage must yield before a few million years of brain development. That is the answer to the question posed at the beginning of this film. The ocean does not belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most intelligent, and the most intelligent never hunts alone. On the savannah, a lioness must hunt in a pride to prevail. Beneath the ocean, the orca has elevated that principle to a higher plane, not mere pack strength, but collective intelligence. But even the most intelligent remains fragile. Orcas defeat every rival the ocean can offer, but orcas cannot defeat the rising temperatures and acidification of a rapidly changing ocean. Intelligence cannot replace vanishing plankton. Culture cannot regenerate dying coral. The most complex brain in the entire ocean still depends upon a vast, interconnected web of life that it did not weave and cannot repair. The larger question is not who is strongest or smartest. The question is, does the ocean still have room for all of them? There is one creature in the ocean whose every appearance seems to slow time itself. "40 to 50 feet in length, pectoral fins spanning 1/3 of its body, the longest of any whale species. When it launches from the water, dozens of tons soaring skyward before crashing back in a white column of spray, no one knows with certainty why. The humpback whale, Megaptera novaeangliae. The scientific name translates roughly to big-winged creature from New England, a name lacking in geographic precision but brimming with accidental poetry. Each year, humpback whales migrate from the waters off Alaska and Russia to Japan's Ogasawara Islands, a one-way journey of 5,000 miles. One of the longest sustained migrations undertaken by any mammal species on Earth. In northern feeding grounds, they coordinate hunts through bubble net feeding. A group dives beneath a school of fish, exhaling bubbles in a spiraling ring to form an invisible net. Fish are corralled inside the bubble column. Then the entire group surges upward in unison. Mouths agape, thousands of gallons of water streaming through baleen plates, trapping the catch. Bubble net feeding is not instinct. It is a behavior that is learned passed from one generation to the next. Not all humpback populations know this technique. Only those with the tradition can execute it. But the humpback whale's most wondrous gift lies not in its mouth, it lies in its voice. Males sing. Each song stretches across 20 minutes or more, then repeats cycling for hours without pause. Every composition weaves together a complex sequence: low moans, high-pitched shrieks, percussive rhythms, and whistled phrases. Arranged into thematic structures with refrains, variations, and codas, and the songs evolve. Each breeding season, new phrases are woven into the composition. Songs spread from one population to another across vast distances, propagating west to east across the Pacific Basin, like a cultural trend traveling through an entire ocean. Scientists call this the song revolution, when an entire old song is replaced by a completely new melody originating from a neighboring population. A form of cultural transmission and creative renewal that was previously documented only in human societies. But the humpback whale's most inspiring story is not one of song. It is a story of resurrection against overwhelming odds. Roughly 10,000 individuals survived the industrial whaling era. Today, more than 80,000. Several populations have been removed from the endangered species list. Proof that when humanity steps back, nature can restore itself. But not every species has been so fortunate. Okinawa's corals, 400 species, among the most diverse on Earth, are dying. Bleaching events in 2016, 2017, 2022, and 2024 killed up to 70% of coral in some regions. When coral dies, the clownfish loses its home. Without anemones, without glycoprotein, no metamorphosis can offer salvation. Studies show clownfish mortality reaches 94 to 100% when their host anemones bleach. When coral reefs degrade, sea turtles lose nesting grounds, plankton declines, and small fish disappear. At least 11 million tons of plastic waste enter the oceans every year. Turtles swallow drifting plastic bags, mistaking them for jellyfish. Microplastics climb every rung of the food chain, from plankton to fish to sharks to orcas. "38% of all shark and ray species face the threat of extinction. The scalloped hammerhead, critically endangered. The whale shark endangered. The ocean sunfish vulnerable." A domino effect. Each broken link weakens the next. The whale shark, the single largest fish species on the planet, glides through the warm Pacific with unhurried grace, 60 feet in length, 40 tons of living weight. A mouth as wide as a garage door, yet it feeds exclusively on plankton and tiny organisms. A gentle filter feeder, the largest fish on Earth and paradoxically the most gentle. Each individual carries a unique constellation of white spots as distinctive as a human fingerprint. The Wild Book Conservation Program has identified more than 12,000 individual whale sharks through these natural markings. But the global population has declined by more than 50% in 75 years. The ocean's most peaceful inhabitant is also vanishing the fastest. Yet amid all this profound loss, hope endures and even flourishes. Humpback whales have rebounded from 10,000 battered survivors to more than 80,000. Japan has expanded its network of marine protected areas. Okinawa is replanting coral using sexual reproduction techniques. The Yakushima community guards turtle nesting beaches through the night. The ocean is sending signals. The question is whether humanity will listen. On the savannah, the lioness will keep hunting because instinct will not let her stop. Beneath the ocean, orcas will keep hunting because inherited intelligence will not let them forget. But the future rests neither on a lion's instinct nor on an orca's intellect. It rests on the conscious choices of the only species on this planet that truly understands what it stands to lose. In the deep trenches of the Pacific, the humpback whale's song still resonates. On the distant savannah, the lion's roar still rumbles. The only question is, will anyone still be listening? Thank you for joining WildVerse on this journey. If this story moved, you share it. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next expedition.